Earlier this morning at Santa Anita, TVG was there as one of your main contenders for the Breeders' Cup Classic. Beholder went out for a very important workout. Paul, we saw yesterday American Pharoah seems to be thriving with a very strong workout in 7 furlongs. Beholder looks to be doing much of the same.
Yeah, she does. I mean, she's just in a class by herself. She's been amazing this year. Her TVG Pacific Classic was truly breathtaking. One of the few times that I've been speechless on air. One of the other times was Zenyatta and Rachel, the two other best fillies and mares that I've seen run. But she's doing everything right. A little tiny bit washy on the neck, but yeah, she's getting a good workout in and just doing it with ease. You can see at the end of this work, they're going to ask her a little bit more. And, you know, we saw yesterday that American Pharoah's work was a little bit stronger than the last one, Beholder, today. So I think this is the most you're going to see out of the two champions.
And the 5 furlongs for Beholder, given a time of 1:02, as is typical with Papa Mandela working in company, but she was definitely breathing different air than everyone else this morning. Beholder is the best horse in the country and has her biggest challenge in American Pharoah, and vice versa. American Pharoah has his biggest challenge in Beholder. They will meet in the Breeders' Cup Classic. There this morning, as this work took place, was Scott Hazelton. And Scott, it is fascinating that the two camps can watch each other very closely. In fact, there have been mornings where they've both been on the racetrack at the same time. What was your impression of what Beholder did this morning?
It was an easy workout. I mean, you look at the time, 1:02. That is not fast for a filly that can go a heck of a lot faster and out in 1:16. But as you'll hear later on this morning, Richard Mandela wasn't looking for a very fast time from his champion Beholder. And you mentioned how washy she was around the neck. It was very humid for Southern California standards out here at Santa Anita. We were close to 90% humidity with the rain that was in the area last evening. A lot of cloud cover, so very warm. A lot of sweat on a lot of these horses out this morning, so that not much of a cause for concern. But as we're going to hear from Richard Mandela and Gary Stevens, who was aboard for the workout this morning, the one thing that stands out with the Hall of Famer Gary Stevens is that he is not wavering from this idea that she might be the best horse that he has ever ridden. How'd everything go this morning?
Super, just a typical Beholder work. Richard didn't want anything fancy with her, just a nice 3/4, and she went off pretty relaxed, and she wanted to do a lot more than what I let her. I feel sorry for Janine in a couple of days because this really kind of probably sharpened her up, but she's ready.
What's the game plan to get her to Kentucky?
She goes the morning of the 19th. I think they load up at the barn about 2 in the morning, and plane leaves out of Ontario about 5. So we'll see her at noontime in Kentucky.
And a workout at Keeneland?
We'll get a workout there. We'll get her settled in a few days and don't have a day set, but somewhere between getting there and the race, we'll get a nice 5/8 or something like that again.
I've never ridden anything like this mare before, and I never will again. Not too many people have been fortunate enough to sit on one like this, but it's the biggest moment of her career and the biggest moment of all of our careers, I believe.
Another thing that Gary Stevens said this morning is that he really feels that she is doing better than she was when she was going into the TVG Pacific Classic. So those are scary thoughts when you think about that performance down at Del Mar. And also you'll hear a little bit later on, Todd, from Richard Mandela about her travels outside of Southern California. They've really not been all that great. She was not great as far as behavior-wise in Kentucky for the Kentucky Oaks. She almost laid down before but still ran a big race. And then she got into some trouble and actually really did hurt herself when she went back to Belmont Park. So that is one thing that will be on the mind of the Hall of Famer Richard Mandela as she gets set to leave SoCal.
Well, and the fact that she leaves in 4 days maybe speaks to that, because she's got ample opportunity, a little more than a week and a half, to get settled in here.
Yeah, I think that's going to be the key. And to me, again, Scott, I think the cooler weather here she's going to love. So to me, Richard sending her a little bit earlier, I would think has to do with that. It's going to get in the 50s mid this week, and it's going to stay through the 60s. I looked at the Breeders' Cup weather. It looks like it's going to be okay as of right now, obviously, but it looks like it's going to be 60 degrees. And for me, the 2 times that she's lost, both of those times it's been a little bit hotter. This is going to be the coolest weather she's ever raced in. That could be an advantage for her.
I really think it will be, Paulie. I think you're bringing up a great point with that, and the fact that she's going to get out there and get acclimated to that. But as we know, trainers worry about everything. That's the trainer's mindset. They think of every possible worst-case scenario and how to avoid that. That's just the mindset of a trainer or any coach in any major sporting event, and that's going to be the case with Richard Mandella as he gets set to send his champion out. Another thing that stood out to me with Gary Stevens and his comments is that he talked about her physical just fitness. She is so fit that she never gets tired, and she is peaking at the right time and as fit as she's ever been. So any cause for concern on this slow time, there should be none, because this is a fit mare getting ready for the biggest performance of her life.
Scott, any idea if Bob Baffert was in the area when this workout took place? Was the rival camp for American Pharoah looking on as Beholder had this big work?
He most certainly was. It was really dark this morning. That was one of the challenges in coming out here and witnessing this workout and even shooting the workout, is how dark it was with the cloud cover and the sun coming up a little bit later as we move in through the fall. But he was out on the apron. He had horses out at the same time when Beholder came out, but I'm sure out of the corner of his eye, he was keeping an eye on the main competition for the Breeders' Cup Classic.
Scott, thank you for keeping an eye out for us. Great report on Beholder and her last major work in California before she comes to Keeneland for a workout preparing for the Breeders' Cup Classic. Stay tuned to TVG for all the latest news for every division of the Breeders' Cup. And remember, you can play the Breeders' Cup at TVG.com.